Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, a Pittsburgh Steelers podcast made by fans like you, for fans like you. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Man, the New England Patriots are just under my skin like no other. Hello, everyone. My name's Joe Kuzma, and this is the Steel City Underground podcast. Welcome back, returning listeners, and those of you still tuning in long after the Steelers season was already over and having watched a Super Bowl that will be memorable for probably reasons that Pittsburgh fans won't like, or will at least, like myself, have to, we'll have to accept over many, many years. It'll take some time for us to get over this and maybe appreciate what Tom Brady is to the game. But currently, don't like him, can't stand him, Bill Belichick, all the same things. They've been caught. This is after a year. Tom Brady was suspended for caught cheating just prior and the whole 9 yards. And, I'm expecting, I was really loving this through about three quarters, this Super Bowl 51 game, that the Atlanta Falcons were just in cruise control. Everything was going according to plan. This is basically the way I'd felt this game was going to go. I'd made some predictions over on Steel City Underground prior to this game. And I know some people always think I'm crazy. And aside from not getting the Atlanta Falcons winning this, which they should have, could have, probably would have, for a number of reasons we'll get into just shortly, I had this thing pretty much nailed. Let me tell you. I said that the Patriots had not faced a team like the Atlanta Falcons all year. They had not. The Falcons had two quality running backs. They had all the same type of Pro Bowlers the Steelers did. And the Steelers left points on the board. They didn't score in the red zone. They didn't get the touchdowns where they needed to. They turned the ball over. And the Falcons were doing everything that I thought the Steelers should have and could have in the AFC Championship game. And they were getting pressure early, and they were still in that 17-9 at half. Most people forget they could have easily been 17-13, or however you want to break that down. 14 if Tomlin goes for 2, whatever. All the people saying to fire Mike Tomlin. I got a good chuckle as trolling some people on Twitter. Those of you who follow me may have caught some of the sarcasm. Sometimes I could be sarcastic. I don't like fans who always fight. Hey, you know what? There's some people out there. Block me, unfollow me, mute me, whatever you want to do on Twitter. That's fine. I'm not disrespectful. I don't swear. But when you go out of your way to continue telling me how you should fire a certain coach or how the Steelers' defense sucked or their game plan, hey, I got something to tell you. The Atlanta Falcons were out there playing man coverage. How'd that work out for them? In the end, how'd that work out for them? So I'm just going to tell you that. Do you think Arthur Blank, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, is going to go to his general manager, what's his last name, Dimitrov, and tell him, we got to fire this Dan Quinn. They're just not going to get this done. We went to the Super Bowl, and they're going to lose Kyle Shanahan anyway. He's supposed to take the 49ers job here. We'll find out about that shortly if the news isn't already out by the time you hear this. But you see my point. Through one half of football, do you think all the people in Boston were up there saying, let's fire Bill Belichick? It's time for Brady to retire. He's washed up. You think they were writing death threats, throwing bricks through his home windows or anything? This is the kind of lunacy that we deal with in Pittsburgh. And I've been talking about it for the better part of 2 weeks, and I still had to deal with it throughout this game. I'm just trying to enjoy this game, enjoy some adult beverages, party, have some fun. Even my daughter figured out that the people with the silver helmets, New England, were the bad guys. They're the bad guys, Daddy. You got it, sweetheart. But unfortunately, the good guys, they don't always end up on top, do they? And I'm being really silly. I'm trying to entertain you guys here. We know what the Patriots did. We know what the Falcons did. It's really two sides, two different halves. We've heard that before. And it really boils down to just a handful of games, but I'd predicted initially, had felt that both quarterbacks in this game could throw 3 touchdowns. And almost happened. Brady had 2. Matt Ryan had 2. Matt Ryan, man, 144.1 QB rating, and you know what? He had a perfect rating through 3 quarters against this team. And it's just a shame. I have to go back and look. I know the one tackle got hurt, and I don't know if that had anything to do with the turnover. But when you turn the ball over and give New England great field position like that, they're going to score. And they did, and they came back. And they end up winning this game off of a miracle catch by Julian Edelman that should have been picked off, and that would have sealed the deal. Or even more so, the ball just hits the ground. Live to fight another down. Instead, to get a large chunk of yards and continue marching down the field. And it just really sucks to hear, like, Joe Buck cheerlead through this whole game and rah, Brady and this and that. And I get it, You're caught up in the moment. You're a sportscaster. You're trying to get that soundbite that will forever be played when they do the NFL films things and the Super Bowl stuff, and when they replay it 20 years from now and 30 years from now, and Joe Buck's going, rah, Tom Brady. And, it's really cool, but it's kind of turns you off as a fan. It's just the opposition view of everything. And it also turns you off because Tom Brady and them, they weren't so hot through most of that game. And to say, well, he did this and this, they got lucky here and there. I just kind of disappointed that you have a few plays in this game. You have that one. You have the other one that was in overtime. It was a drop. I think it was Beasley. Should have come up with that football. Should have had a pick. And that would have been huge because then Atlanta could just take it down the other end of the field. They would have got the ball at the 20, take it down the other end of the field. They kick a field goal, and that's ball game there instead of the whole touchdown, sudden death scenario, which ultimately that still sucks. I think both teams should still be able to possess it. Hey, if one team scores a touchdown, it just means the other team has to score a touchdown because field goal is not going to cut it if they only have one possession. It's a lot of pressure on them. Why not? I mean, even you look at any other sport. I mean, basketball and baseball don't really. Well, baseball you still get an opportunity. You both get an inning, but it just doesn't seem right. And that first ever Super Bowl that went to overtime, and you got to hear the New England Patriots fans now. If you thought they were obnoxious before, geez, you might want to stay away from social media and any other radio stuff. My show's okay, of course, because you're not going to hear rah Brady over here. They still got awful lucky, and sometimes you have to get lucky. That's a component of winning. But predicted LeGarrette Blount would do nothing in this game. Of course, it was James White who got 2 touchdowns rushing, only 29 yards on the ground. Deion Lewis 27, LeGarrette Blount 31. About Tom Brady, he attempted 62 passes, completed 43 of them, which I believe is a Super Bowl record. Of course, 466 yards, also a Super Bowl record. By virtue of playing overtime, of course, you should get those records if you've been throwing the ball around as much as they did. Falcons really did get the job done, though, but both teams got to each quarterback 5 times in this game. But the Falcons penalized 9 times for 65 yards. And I was really wondering, it seemed like just going down the field, it was like hold. Some of them legit. But it didn't seem like those penalties were being called on the other side. And I always question this. And a lot of people, I actually saw a really funny tweet out there about somebody that said, you know what, WWE's less predictable with their scripted sports entertainment, as you will call it. I thought that was pretty silly, but the Patriots were only penalized 4 times. You saw what happened near the end of the game. Really, all the Falcons had to do, and this is really the tail of the game here. So the Falcons have the ball. So this is really the series or the set of plays that doomed the Atlanta Falcons. They get the ball. They start at their own 10. Now, this is after Hardy fields a ball from the Atlanta's 3. And like I said before, these sky kicks, I've been saying this if you've been following the show for a while here, the whole strategy of trying to stop teams short of the 25 they get from a kneel down. I don't know, would you risk in the Super Bowl letting this ball bounce and seeing if it goes into the end zone so you could just have a touchback? Or seeing if it bounces and goes out of bounds. Because, this guy literally returns this, fields it at the 3, returns it 7 yards to Atlanta's 10. Now, luckily for Atlanta, they pick up a huge play by Devontae Freeman. 39 yards, gets them to the 49. They end up getting all the way down to New England's 22. And this is where there's a 1-yard loss on a Freeman run. And then Matt Ryan attempts the pass. It is sacked. New England takes their timeout right there with 3 minutes and 56 seconds remaining. And you go from 4:40 to 3:56 to 3:50. And this is the pass play that would have been to Mohamed Sanu for just 9 yards, would have still kept them in field goal range. The Falcons, that is. There was another holding penalty by Jake Matthews. And then the ball gets moved back to New England's 45. They're now out of field goal range. It's an incomplete pass. Ball's punted, and New England gets the ball on their 9 with 3.5 minutes left and 2 timeouts remaining, plus the 2-minute warning. Only down 8 points versus, who cares if you lost a yard? 3.5 minutes, 2 timeouts. What do you think is going to happen? They're only down 8 points, Tom Brady and the Patriots. Now, it still means they have to score a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, of which they do. And it's a pick play. Anybody who tells you anything differently, they had 2 guys out in front of Amendola, and they're just there to run interference. It's just such a joke in the NFL. I actually saw a chop block on one of the, I want to say it was the James White touchdown as well. And I just remember Le'Veon Bell getting called for a chop block in a game that had a touchdown called back with the Steelers. Kind of foggy on which game that was. I'm pretty sure it was an away game. Since I was at home watching it on the television, I can't remember. It may have been Cincinnati or maybe Buffalo or somebody. But regardless, it's just such a joke to see that New England gets penalized only 4 times. You cannot tell me that a football team is ever that perfect ever so often. They got called for a few of them. They had a couple good ones that the officials found, and then they missed the face mask even on that whole Sanu thing that should have nullified. Actually, if you think about it, the holding penalty would have been offsetting penalties. They would have replayed a 3rd down from Atlanta's, of course, I lost the spot already, but Atlanta was at the 35, and they would have still been in field goal range. They could have run another run play, maybe took it down a little bit more unless New England burned a timeout, but it would have been another timeout New England would have had to use, and it would have made it a 2-score game, but the face mask was missed there. So even if you want to quibble over a chop block or a pick, you just cannot argue with me over something that does happen that's not a judgment call. A face mask is not a judgment call. And that's just the way that things went in New England's favor. That face mask gets called, and then Atlanta kicks a field goal, and it's game over. So this is pretty much how the year went. This was always New England's MO. They play in an awful division that hasn't had any quality quarterbacks in it since Dan Marino retired. Now, of course, besides the Patriots quarterbacks and Tom Brady, Matt Castle had a decent year the one season. So you can't say that Ryan Tannehill or Tyrod Taylor or E.J. Manuel or Kyle Orton before him or Mark Sanchez or Ryan Fitzpatrick or Geno Smith has been a joke for so long, and they get to play those guys twice. And everybody says, well, Joe, who did the Steelers play? Well, they didn't get to play the Texans, not twice, with Brock Osweiler and a few other scrub teams here or there. They didn't get to play, trying to think who else they got. The 49ers, I believe, the Patriots had. So it's pretty much the way the year went. They got the 1 seed by virtue of having just a schedule against a bunch of backup quarterbacks. And then even when they played somebody that was quality, that team itself may have been hurting without a running back or receiver or what have you. So that's just the way it goes. Hey, you know what? Okay, they got lucky. In Pittsburgh, they had a tough schedule going ahead. Even when New England played the Steelers and they didn't have Landry Jones, I still thought the Steelers could have beat the Patriots. It's just one of those things. Things go their way. A lot of people are going to say, oh, well, you should just admit that the Patriots were good. They're a better team. They outcoached whoever. I don't know. Sometimes it's just execution. You think Matt Ryan wants to get sacked and fumble the football? You think Tom Brady intended to throw a pick 6? These aren't coaching things, and nobody's going to get fired for any of these errors that happened in this game. If anything, it makes everyone more valuable because they just played in a Super Bowl. Because other teams don't have that. The Steelers didn't have it either, but they played in a conference championship game. I had someone ask me, because I mentioned like the Packers, I think, as an example, and you think they're firing any of their coaching staff, and somebody else, the Dolphins lost to the Steelers badly. It was the first time they made the playoffs in God knows how long. Since early 2000s, maybe even the 90s. I had an analysis of it a long time ago, but it's fuzzy in my brain right now. But you think they're firing anybody there? They consider that an improvement. They're thankful. Their fans said, we made the playoffs. And that was just a wild card. They didn't even win their division because the Patriots did. So I think we just need to look at the bigger picture. Apologize if my sarcasm was too much for some people. I understand that could be. But I'm not out here making fun of players or running them down and calling for firing people because it's just not professional. I have a little more integrity than that, and I pride myself on that. Having been in some of these guys' shoes in various ways, different things throughout life, I wouldn't want anybody coming into my job and criticizing me like that, telling me I needed to be fired because I made a mistake on something. We're all human. We all make errors. Even the officiating crew missing that face mask. I'm not making excuses for anybody. All I'm trying to say is game would have been an entirely different story. So I did like the Falcons punter. Man, he was putting some bombs out there. That field position game, they knew exactly what they needed to do to win that game and just couldn't get it done. So unfortunately, Steelers fans, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady now have 5 Super Bowl victories, one more than Chuck Noll and Terry Bradshaw. And I just could not wait. How about Terry goes out there? This is the guy who can't lose sleep if the Steelers lose. I know he's just kind of doing his job. He gets his 15 minutes of fame by being in front of this giant, millions of people watching this game, waiting for the Super Bowl to end for 24 to come on Fox. There's a plug I wish I could just got paid for. Some free advertisement. But I'm just like, man, how would you feel if somebody just broke your record? You might feel happy. You might feel sad. But this seems like a very bitter guy against the Steelers. And it just rubbed me the wrong way on a night where I didn't want to see the Patriots victorious to begin with. And their opponent completely blew it. So there you have it, 34-28, first Super Bowl to go to overtime in history. And now we're going to have to hear how Tom Brady is the greatest ever. And the only thing I could say to silence that is, Steelers, got to get your stuff together, go out there, win a Super Bowl next year, 2017. This time in 2018, better be playing in the big game. Hey, it's happened before. We saw it happen where both, the Cowboys and the Steelers had lost in the conference championships and went back and played in the Super Bowl a year later. It's not unheard of. It's not unthinkable. The Steelers didn't win that one, so I probably shouldn't use it as an example, but you know what I mean. They're not too far off. I think they're going to reload, and we're going to talk about that more. We're going to have a whole lot of time to discuss some things. So, folks, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts. I'd love to play them here on the show. You can even text me. I'll read them. You can email me. You can put it through the website. The email is info@steelcityunderground.com if you ever want to reach me. I don't think I've ever said it here on the air, but if you ever want to, info@steelcityunderground.com. You'll reach me. Just ask the question that you want to ask. We'll get to it. If you want to text us to 203-900-4SCU. There's also a voicemail on there, so I'm not going to pick up. I'm a busy guy throughout the day, so don't worry about me answering. It's just a voicemail thing, so you could leave your comments. You could have your say your piece, and I'll say something maybe in return as well, or just, hey, let you have your shout-out. So give us a holler. Really appreciate you guys following and listening and just engaging with us throughout the year. And we'll have some more to come. Probably slow down the podcast to maybe 2 episodes, if not 1 per week at least 1 per week up until we get through Combine and we start talking free agency. And we got some things to talk about that later this week. I'm a little behind on some news, but the Steelers are signing some of their own restricted free agents, got some futures contracts and things out there, and that's the next thing we'll discuss. So until next time, I know it's been short, but let me tell you, you're lucky I'm even talking about this right now because I don't know how I stayed this calm. Veins are popping out of my neck, shaking. Not a good night if you don't like the New England Patriots, if you know what I mean. So be safe, be good, and I'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.